And welcome back to Caesar Man Warrior. This is time for another Patreon roster review. This is a completely free-to-play roster. CJ246694 from Inglorious Blasters. What's up, Inglorious Blasters? They are an awesome guild. CJ has got a pretty good lineup, actually, for free-to-play. Pretty impressed. Again, he's been here for over a year. However, he did take a tiny bit of a break. Boy, that break really can get you behind. He is in top 400 of Arena, which isn't horrible by any stretch of imagination, but I think we can get you a little bit higher. When I asked CJ about what he wanted to have focused on, really it was, what should I do for the Rancor team-wise, what should I do for the Heroic AAT, and kind of who to farm. So for Arena, first off, I'm going to say you got Wedge and Biggs. Wedge is your leader. That's an excellent setup for now. I know that the meta is sort of shifting, but when you're free to play and you've invested this amount of resources into characters, a lot of times you kind of have to continue to work with the characters that you have. Biggs and Wedge do a lot of damage and they're fast, so, and with the assist that Biggs calls, they still can put a lot of damage down. So that's, I would continue to use them. I do know you have a Boba Fett in your lineup. I would actually bring in Boba Fett and Stormtrooper Han. You had Stormtrooper Han in your lineup and you've replaced him, it looks like, with Darth Vader. So I think you're looking for probably a little bit more damage, but I would actually put Stormtrooper Han back in the Darth Vader slot, and then I would put Boba Fett in for Lando. And the reason is Boba Fett has execute. He's got the ability to insta-kill, which is super important in today's meta. Plus, you know, you're going to be debuffing individuals potentially with your Emperor Palpatine. So the other thing is you could use Darth Vader once you get him Zeta. Now, you got to get some Zetas to do this, but you could put him in lead and then put Boba Fett on the team and just move Wedge out of the leadership slot. That would be a great setup as well. But I think doing a Wedge, Biggs, Boba, Emperor Palpatine, Saint Han combo right now would do really well. Remember, your Stormtrooper Han needs to be fast as possible, and I know as free to play it's hard to get speed mods. Just keep looking in the store for credits, and when you find one for credits, buy it and level it up. Make sure that you've done the first two, the health and the defense mod sets, all the way to the end, so you can unlock the 4 and 5 dot mods in the store. Otherwise, you'll never see the good ones in the store. So let's go ahead and talk about quickly first Zeta. You talked about that, and you thought about doing Darth Vader as your first Zeta. I think that would be an excellent idea. His leadership ability is phenomenal. He'd work great in an Empire team as a leader, and he's going to help you with a heroic Rancor raid. Now, he's only 6 stars, so you're not going to be able to use him currently in the heroic Rancor or the heroic AAT. That is going to be your biggest challenge for me when I build you these teams, is you can't use characters that are under 7 stars in heroic. So I'm going to tell you who I think you should be farming and going for to get there. And because you're completely free to play, all of my suggestions will be free to play suggestions with what you have to minimize your farming and to minimize how much gearing you have to do. So let's go ahead and go into your inventory. For phase 1 of heroic AAT, the first thing I would suggest is a Jedi team. And I would use your Qui-Gon Jinn, and I would use your, obviously, Ayla Secura as a lead with your Qui-Gon Jinn. I would actually use your Luminara because you have her pretty high. She's going to do ability block, and she can do quite a bit of damage on her basic. Ahsoka, and then I would say your Jedi Knight Anakin, but until then you could use Jedi Consular. But I'm going to tell you, you definitely want to farm Jedi Knight Anakin as a replacement to Jedi Consular, and then at some point, if your guild unlocks you your General Kenobi, you can move General Kenobi in to replace Luminara. So that is what my suggestions would be. But for now, to do heroic, you need the 7 stars. You use your top 5 lineup, but work on your Jedi Knight Anakin, knowing that you are going to replace Jedi Consular in your heroic phase 1 team. Let's go move on to phase 2. So for phase 2, you are going to probably end up using a combination of droids and Jawas. I would suggest of those droids for phase 2, HK47, IG86, and IG88, which means you're going to have to continue to gear them, and you're going to have to get 86 up a little higher. He's currently 5-star. To use him in heroic, you're going to have him 7-star. By the way, your first side farm, other than Jedi Knight Anakin, is going to be B2. B2 is indispensable in this game and will help free to play more than you know, tear through all the different metas as they come and go. He is going to allow you to impose your will regardless of which meta is out, so you definitely need to continue your B2 on the side. It would be a droid Jawa hybrid, so on here you're going to definitely want to get Jawa Engineer and Chief Nebit leveled up, starred up, and geared up. It's definitely difficult to get Jawa Engineer, but I would get him and Chief Nebit up for your droid team. I also wouldn't put it past Capital Games and EA to do a droid pass. What I mean by that, a faction pass, what I mean by that is they're going through and kind of reinventing all of the factions, giving them new life, and the droids have kind of fallen to the wayside. So I could see them in the next few months possibly doing a faction pass on the droids. So definitely I would not throw them away like a lot of people are saying to do. I would continue to develop them for the phase 2 in the heroic raid, but again, you're going to have to get their star level and gear level up to be competitive in phase 2. Phase 2 will probably be your weakest of all the phases, or phase 3 will be the weakest of all your phases. Now let's move to phase 3. For phase 3, for free to play, I really just recommend an Empire hybrid team. You can use basically once you get Darth Vader Zeta, you could use him as the lead, but until then you could use Emperor Palpatine. You've got TIE Fighter Pilot, but you're going to have to farm TIE Fighter Pilot up, and Royal Guard. You can also mix in some Sith with them as far as for phase 3, but you're going to remember have to have 7 stars for the heroic. So it's just about time. You're really not completely prepared in all phases to be doing the heroic AAT yet, but you will be if you're hyper focused on these specific characters. And then for phase 4, you can use Wedge, Biggs, Admiral Akbar, Stormtrooper Han, Lando, and you're going to get with those top 5, you'll probably get between 500,000 to 1 million, depending upon how long you can keep them alive for. You're going to continue wanting to continue to gear them and whatnot. I wouldn't, as free to play, look at trying to do better than everybody else. It's just not possible in the raids because you're not going to have everyone maxed out. What you're looking to do is contribute your percentage, being a team player and getting your 2%. The top 5 will definitely in a heroic get you your 2%. So currently you have a phase 1 team, you have a phase 4 team, and you're needing to build a phase 2 and 3 team. So work on phase 2 and 3 first, get them up to 7 stars and up to par, so you can at least participate in those 2 phases, so you can get your 2% damage in those 2 phases. As far as Rancor goes, definitely for now I would use a Tebow lead with Qui-Gon Jinn, both for turn meter reduction, with Rex, but you're going to have to finish Rex off as far as his stars. And I would have put 5s in this team as well for speed down. And I would use Rey. She's already 7 stars for you, and she applies a ton of damage. So if you can get the turn meter reduction from Tebow, Qui-Gon Jinn, and Rex, and then the slowdown from 5s, you can use Rey. That's an old school way of doing the Rancor, and you could probably solo the first phase or get a lot of damage in the first phase. Once you get your Empire up to snuff for phase 3, as well as Darth Vader Zeta, he should be your first Zeta, you'll be able to use him as lead in the Rancor, and you'll be able to use all of your Empire and Sith that you have 7-star to go into the Rancor and reduce turn meter that way as well. Now let's talk about overall farming kind of from above, the characters that you're going to need to farm. I've mentioned you need to work on CT555555s. You're going to have to work on 5s. You're going to have to work on Rex. He's to the right. Rex is definitely a high priority. You're going to have to work on B2, who's right next to 5s. He's definitely a high priority. You're going to have to work on HK47 and IG86. Both of those are in the middle to the right. And IG88. There's your IG88 in the middle to the right. You definitely want to continue to work on him. You're definitely going to want to continue to work on the TIE Fighter Pilot. as well as Jawa Engineer, who's in the middle as well, and in the bottom middle, Chief Nebit. You're going to want to continue to work on him, as well as in the middle right, Jedi Knight Anakin. You're going to want to continue to work on Darth Nihilus, who's in the middle row as well with Jedi Knight Anakin, and Darth Maul for ships. And then in the middle right, you see Sun Fac. You're going to want to continue to work on and finish Sun Fac. And Darth Maul will be both for ships and arena. And then lastly, you'll want to finish working on your Boba Fett, who's in the middle right. So you got a very large list of farms, but these characters are all going to help you in all of the phases, arena. Now let's move to ships. And by the way, if you feel like that's a ridiculously large group, it is. It really is. But those are the characters that I would focus on. Do not get distracted with all of the new metas and all the new characters coming in. These are the characters I would focus on so you can be viable in heroic raids. Now, as far as ships go, you're actually doing better in ships. You've got Admiral Akbar as your lead. You're using the Biggs Wedge combo, which is phenomenal. You're using the TIE Fighter, which is phenomenal. But then you have Jedi Consular and Geonosian Soldier in as your kind of your other two. I would swap those two out for your Ahsoka and your Boba Fett. And the reason for that is your Boba Fett and your Ahsoka are pretty high in comparison to other ships. Ahsoka does good damage and dispels the taunts across the way, so you'll be able to actually take out who you want to take out. And Boba Fett can do, of course, the target lock, and he can do an AoE, and he's got that target lock AoE as well, which can do damage to anyone that's target locked. So pretty awesome two attackers. They're going to do more damage, and so those two I would replace for Geo Soldier, who's really slow, and Jedi Consular. Now on the bench, I'd probably put Sun Fac as the first on the bench, and then Jedi Consular second. Both of those are tanky characters that are going to, once things start dying, they're going to come in and they'll be able to call assists, they'll be able to put protection up. Sun Fac will be able to come in and replace Biggs if Biggs dies as your tank, so you'll have a secondary backup tank. But I think with that switch you should do really well. So like I said, you also want to continue to farm, because I noticed that you don't have Darth Maul's ship in here. The one ship I would definitely, you're going to continue to farm all these ships, but I would focus on, in the shipments, Darth Maul's ship as a priority, because you do have Darth Maul and you're going to be gearing him, hopefully you'll be gearing him up and leveling his star level up. So he's going to be excellent in your lineup once you get him. That's what I think about ships. CJ, I think you're doing a phenomenal job as free to play. You look like you're doing really, honestly, pretty good. Being in the top 500 in arena after having taken a break is actually quite impressive, just due to the fact that it is extremely hard to catch up once you're behind your shard or your leaderboard, because they don't stop playing. They continue to play and keep climbing, and you of course have to come in and try and figure it out where you're at. So you're doing well. Just do a few of the tweaks I suggested. As always, keep your gaming on. Warrior out.